Today we're going to be making these beautiful and delicious sourdough bagels. Today I'm going to be making jalapeno cheese bagels, but feel free to add whatever flavors you would like. This bagel recipe is very versatile. This recipe is actually pretty simple. It just has a lot of waiting steps, which I think tend to intimidate a lot of people, but the actual steps involved in it are pretty simple. So let's walk through it together. You will need an active sourdough starter before you make this bagel recipe. So for me, I feed my starter equal parts water and flour at about 8 a.m. in the morning. And then at about noon, my sourdough starter has doubled and has a dome top and is like just starting to kind of come down. So that's when I use my starter, and that's when I add it to all my ingredients. This one's pretty simple. You don't need a mixer, but if you do have one, that makes it a little easier. Otherwise, you can just mix and knead this by hand. But you add all of your ingredients at the same time once your sourdough starter is active and bubbly. So all of your inclusions, including like your flavors, and this is a pretty simple recipe. It only has a few ingredients, which I will be including the full recipe all written out if that's easier for you down in the description box. Then place your dough in a well-oiled bowl, cover it with a plastic wrap, and let it sit for half an hour. After that half hour is up, we're going to do what is called a stretch and fold. And I like to visualize my sourdough loaf as being a square, and I'm going to go around and pull each side of that square out and bring it back into the center. And just kind of fold it over itself as I'm showing you in this video. And this is going to form a lot of structure in your dough and make for a much stronger bagel that has a nice chew to it. I have forgotten to do my stretch and folds before, and my bagel still turned out fine. It was just a little bit softer. But again, if you forget to do steps, you're still probably going to end up with a great end result. You're going to do 3 sets of stretch and folds every 30 minutes, and then you're going to let it just kind of rise on your counter. For me, my house is a little colder, and so it never doubles in size for me. And so just before I go to bed, I throw it in the refrigerator overnight and let it do a bulk ferment in the fridge. And then in the next morning, what we're going to do is we're going to dump that out onto a surface, divide it into about 6 to 8 balls of dough. And what you're wanting to do here is we're going to start shaping our bagels. So you want to kind of pull the top down to the center all the way around and form a nice tight ball of dough. And then once you have that ball, you're going to poke your thumb in the middle and kind of swirl it around so that you get that nice bagel shape. This part is better with practice, and if you mess it up, you're still going to end up with something that tastes pretty good. So don't worry too much about it. But then you're going to let that cover and rest for about 1 to 3 hours, depending on how warm your house is. It might take a little bit longer, but you want your dough to be going from being a little tough to kind of poofy. And that's what I'm trying to show you here. It's a hard kind of texture to show you, but it gets a lot softer and poofy to the touch. And then you're going to make a sugar water. I don't measure this. I just kind of throw a little sugar in there, and you're going to bring that to a boil. You're going to boil each bagel for 30 seconds on each side. So flip after 30 seconds and do another 30 seconds. And then I'm putting on an egg wash on the outside of these bagels after they've been boiled, which is just a scrambled egg with a little bit of water or milk. And that adds a really nice shine to the outside of the bagel and gives it a nice crunch. And then add whatever toppings you want to add, or none if you don't want to do that. But I'm adding some more cheese and jalapenos. And I would recommend placing your bagels on a piece of parchment paper or a silicone baking mat like I did here, instead of just directly on the cookie sheet. And then you're going to bake it at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 20 minutes and then pull it out. Now, I do recommend removing them from the baking tray so they don't continue to cook. However, you could use tongs and be a little bit smarter than I was, and then you don't burn your fingers. I hope you give this bagel recipe a try, and I hope this video was helpful for you. Thank you so much for watching. Leave any questions that you have down in the comment section below, and I'll try to get to them.